United. Clemson spun. Doesn't get prettier than that. I don't remember it.
What is up, everybody? Run Pure Sports. We're here with the College Football Print Factory Show. We're breaking down. We're here, right? The championship game week. It's. I keep saying it gets by fast. Not many weeks left, and we're at that final week until bowl season. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a great Saturday where you can just sit and watch the games all day. Yeah, it's not as fast paced as normal, but hey, great games to watch. We got two early ones. Then we got right on the island, the SEC at 4 o'clock Eastern, and then 3 night games to kind of close out the day. So overall, it's going to be a fun one. I love the way they set it up, so I'm excited to break it all down. Bruce, I'll kick it over to you first. Are you excited for the championship games?
Yeah, dialed in. I was going to play some NFL last night, but I decided to do a little more research and get a little bit more in depth with these 6 games, and we have 3 games tonight as well. Last week was solid. I know some people missed out. Their main lineups like 1 or 2 points. A lot of that was Justin Marshall at his 0.8 points or whatever it was. But looking forward to this one. This been looking forward to it all year, and you shouldn't disappoint. A lot of good games.
All right, Bruce, can you put your mic down a little bit? Not like
Sure.
Yeah, that's a little better. I don't know why.
Better?
I guess. Yeah, I mean, for me,
not much.
You thought it was better, right, Bryce? Now?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, it was a little bit unclear, but just should be good. Also, we should give. I think we should give championship game picks for all the games. I think people would like that, so we'll have to give picks. I'll admit I'm not gonna. It's gonna be a little tougher to pick. Miami, Ohio versus Ohio, but I haven't watched that many of those games this year. But I think we should give out picks for it. I think that's a good idea. Bryce, we'll go over to you. Championship weekend, we are here. Are you pumped for it?
I'm super excited for the championship weekend and just like the playoffs in general, because we'll have so many good playoff slates, like big, hopefully big prize pools going forward. So not only this one, but all the ones going forward. I think we'll likely do a show for the play-ins, the playoff play-in games. There will probably be enough games to do a show for that, and maybe a bowl preview show or something. But these bowl games, I'm expecting a lot of people to just opt out if you're not in the playoffs. I expect anyone who's remotely close to an NFL player to opt out if you're not in the playoff. So it's going to be a little hard to predict that stuff in advance. But I think you can get really good edges just on the playoffs or on the bowl games in general if we're able to I don't know. Say Clemson loses today. Every single one of their NFL players is going to opt out. Guarantee it.
Yeah, not only that, that's an edge, right? That's why you're going to be in the Discord.
Yeah.
You don't know who's holding their helmet. You're not going to know everything, but you know who will? Bruce. Bruce will be listening to radio coverages of the Tax Slayer Bowl. He'll be listening to everything. And I will say, I'm you know which bowl I'm excited for? The Pop-Tart Bowl. Remember that last year with the Pop-Tart dude everywhere? That was hilarious. So bowl season's always really fun. I'm excited for the playoffs as well. But hey, we got the championship games, and of course we got to figure out, hey, who's in, who's out for the playoffs, and then we'll have some really, really fun slates. And we'll bring the shows whenever we can, whenever it makes sense, based on scheduling with the holidays and the right games, because it's going to be hard to do some of these shows for some of these bowl games, but the playoffs will definitely be a little bit easier. All right, let's get to that first game. It's Miami, Ohio, and Ohio. Battle of Ohio, I guess. 44.5 total. This is the lowest total on the slate. Miami, Ohio is 1.5 point favorites. This is not a game I think overall we are going to love. I think it's a game that we are likely going to stay away from a bit. Maybe not. I have to get Bruce's opinion on this because I'll admit, this is not a team I've watched that much this year. I've definitely watched a lot of these games. Haven't watched much of them. Obviously, we know Anthony Tyus. We've had slates with him at 5.8K. Parker Navarro, I know he broke a slate, I think, last week. He was phenomenal, running around, making tons of plays. I think those are two of the core guys you're definitely going to see. You got Coleman Owen as well. So the Ohio side is definitely one that we have to like. And then, of course, we've got Brett Gabbert. I believe I think it's Blaine Gabbert's brother, not his brother. Brett Gabbert, definitely someone that we have seen a little bit on these action weeks and everything. Bruce, I think there's plays here. I'll let you just take it away because you know way more about these guys. I don't play them during the week, but you are deep in the tape on these options. So who are you looking at?
Yeah, it's an interesting game because it was they did play earlier this year and it was 30-20. I believe that was an Ohio win, if I'm not mistaken. It's Miami, Ohio wants to run a really slow pace. If they're able to run the football, they're going to be able to slow it down quite a bit here. But I kind of like Ohio. They've been playing well, been running the football well with Parker Navarro mostly. If you played Tyus last week, you'd know he took everything. Him and Coleman Owen, his receiver. He's going to be low owned on Saturday too. So, if they pop one or two here, could be way ahead of the field. The Miami, Ohio receivers are really cheap. Virgil, Cade McDonald, and Tracy are all very cheap. McDonald, he missed a couple weeks there, but had 11 targets last week in his first game back in a little bit. He's really solid. I think he's a good value play. Virgil's more the deep threat guy, and dude has nine touchdowns this year. Really cheap option. If you're not playing Navarro, you can always consider Tyus because he is elite. But the Miami, Ohio rush defense is really solid. So I think I'd rather play Navarro here. He runs about 12 times per game, has 13 rushing touchdowns this year. You don't have to jam a receiver with him, but he has cheap receivers there in Owen and maybe even Chase Hendricks. He's cheap too, but I pretty much like playing him on his own unless in tournaments you want to jam Owen with him.
Yeah, I will say too, Miami, Ohio, when they played Ohio earlier in the year at Miami, Ohio, they lost. It was 30-20 Miami, Ohio over Ohio. But Nick Pololis played a lot more than Parker Navarro. Was that the change of the guard kind of, Bruce, over the course of the season, it seems like?
I think he got hurt, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yes, it does look like that. I'm just scanning through game logs to kind of check it. It looked like he got hurt. So, I think that had to be a clear factor for sure in that game. And I'm with you, Bruce. Like, just knowing some of these, talented players, it seems like Ohio has more talent on the offense side. So I'm with you. I'd probably pick that side if I had to pick a side. Bryce, I'll go over to you. It's a game we could, I think, fade DFS-wise. I don't think we need to play it, but you could certainly make a case for Parker Navarro and Tyus. Those are the two key guys I think I'm looking at. If you want to mix and match a receiver, that's fine. What about you?
I would just skip this game in cash. There's two kind of unknown games on the slate, and the Marshall Louisiana Lafayette game is way better, and there's a lot of plays I like in that one. So I'll spend more time on that game, but this one's tournament only for me. I prefer the Ohio side of the ball. Navarro and Owen, I think, is a pretty decent GPP stack. It's going to be completely unowned. It's definitely not my favorite stack, but it's the one I would play in this game if you wanted some exposure to it. Miami, Ohio receivers are pretty cheap, one-off type of plays. Use them to fill out a lineup. I think my favorite would be Tracy and Virgil, but McDonald's kind of come on here as well. So I think that's an okay stack as well. The nice thing about Navarro is he runs. I would not play him with Tyus. Would make a rule separating those two in tournaments. Tyus, not my favorite running back play of the week, but he is playable in tournaments. If they are able to run the ball with success, they're going to. So I think this game is more through the air from them, as Bruce alluded to.
Yeah, another thing to note too, typically this championship week is typically like the online final week. It's not this year, I think, because of the playoff. I'm assuming it's for the playoff time. So one, there is chances to qualify if you're trying to do that. And two, we typically have like like Bryce said it during that breakdown. Like this is one of the unknown games, right? There's like 4 known games, just like some of the best conferences, and then there's like 2 unknown ones. Typically, the quote unquote like unknown games, they're very mispriced, or at least one of them is. Like this one's not, right? Like you don't look at it and just go, oh, there's complete mispricings. You have to like kind of get exposure to this game. Sometimes a higher total. Typically, I think Western Kentucky is in the game. They've been in a bunch of, at least I think, over the past couple of years. So overall, I don't need to play this game. I think it's good points that you brought up, Bryce. It's skippable for sure. Let's get to the next game. We'll go to my adopted team for the season, Iowa State University, which I'm excited for. I know Bruce will be excited to roster some Iowa State. And then we have Arizona State. And this is definitely a really intriguing matchup. The spread on the game is Arizona State -1.5. Bruce, also, if you could tell me, because I probably don't know every game, if you know them, which games are in domes and which are not, I think that could matter a little bit. I don't know if this one would be – is this one in a dome or no?
It is Jerry World.
Oh, Jerry World. Good. Okay, so it's in Jerry World. Arizona State, they are missing Tyson. That's a humongous piece that's gone. If he was on the slate at 7.2K, he would gain ownership. He'd be a really strong play, but people are definitely not going to go to him. And honestly, at that point, if you look at the pricing, I mean, one of Arizona State's wide receiver ones, I don't know which one, but one of them is 3.2K. I can't tell you which, but they're 3.2K or lower. So there is natural value on the Arizona State side of the ball when it comes to receivers. You know me, I'm going to love Higgins. I'm going to love Noel. They're great plays that you can mix and match on your teams. I'll definitely will be overweight on them and Rocco Beck, but I did bury the lead a little bit. One guy that's going to be heavily involved in this offense, especially with Tyson gone, and he is going to be keyed in on, though, by the Iowa State defense, is Cam Skatebo. He's 10.3K. Curious if we can afford him. So the 4 guys I think main people are looking at are Skatebo, Rocco Beck, the 2 Arizona State receivers in Noel and Higgins. Those are 4 key guys that people will be looking at from this game. And then they'll be considering, do I mix in an Iowa State running back option? Do I mix in these Arizona State receivers, which Bruce will break down a little bit for us? But I think those are the main talking points here of this game, Bruce, and some of the good plays. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, it could have some offensive fireworks for sure. I do love Skatebo every time he's on the slate. Iowa State's given up some explosive runs this year too. I think they might be the worst on the slate or close to it at giving up explosive runs. It's not what Skatebo does a ton of, but it's possible. He's looked good. He looked good last week. Close to 100% from his injury. He is pricey, but he's definitely going to have ownership because there's some good value on the slate for sure. Do like Rocco Becht. Kind of under the radar play would be Sam Levitt. He's been very steady this year, and he runs a little bit as well. He's 7,300 if you want to play in tournaments and not pay that crazy price for Skatebo. You can definitely pay it for Levitt and maybe go with a receiver or 2. Since Tyson's out, I do kind of like Guillory here, 3,200. I think he'd probably be the wide receiver 1. Don't mind Mateer either, the tight end. He's got a 15% target share last 4 weeks and 5 touchdowns this year as well. Stovall and O'Meary would be the other 2 starters, most likely. O'Meary's from Texas as well, and that's where they're playing the game. So, I don't mind a 3K guy, and he's solid. He played for Texas for a little bit, and he had a lot of. I thought he was going to be a really good receiver before he transferred. Big guy and plays outside, so I think he's interesting. And like you said, Higgins, Noel, both great plays. I think in tournaments you can consider a guy like Carson Hansen just because of his touchdown upside. And he's 4K. A guy's 11 touchdowns this year, getting about half of the running back snaps too. So I think he's in play. It could. I kind of like using one-offs or or maybe 2 or 3 guys in this game. But I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but it is a 6-game slate. And the total's 50, so it's pretty close to it's pretty close to the others on the slate. I think the highest total is 58. So yeah, it should be a pretty good game. It's indoors. During the day, the sun shouldn't affect it too much. I know that's a problem usually in Arlington, but I like it. I definitely like these cheap ASU receivers.
Yeah, and honestly, we will need some value on this slate. It's worth mentioning the quarterback position. Besides Gabbert, I believe the cheapest option on the board is 6.8K, and I think it's the ULL quarterback, and then Kevin Jennings is 6'9". So point I'm getting at is value at quarterback. We don't have these 5K quarterbacks or 4 or 5 or even 6K quarterbacks really besides Gabbert. So you are going to have to spend up a little bit. So you are going to need to find some value at certain positions. Bryce, I'll go over to you. It's a 49.5 total. Again, it's not a massive total, but I think there are good plays in this game. What's your thoughts, Bryce?
So I think there's 2 chalk quarterbacks on this slate that we can get to when their games come up. So I think that going with either quarterback in this game will be different. I think the chalk way to play this game is to play Scatterboo. And then, if you want to stack, you just stack Iowa State, with Rocco, and then one of Noel or Higgins. In cash, I think Scatterboo is a stone lock. I just don't see how you fade him here. There's not there's not an expensive quarterback like a Jalen Milroe type of guy that you really want to play at quarterback. So and there are cheap options. So I think he's a lock in cash. With Tyson out, Guillory would be my favorite play. We do have some cheap Clemson receivers later as well. I think Guillory and them are the best cheap plays at receiver on the slate. Higgins and Noel, it's always kind of hard to pick between the two. I think Higgins is in general the safer player, with Noel being the more explosive play type of guy. But you've seen both of them have huge games this year. I would definitely stack Rocco with at least one of them. I'm not sure if you need to go for the overstack here. If you are going for the overstack, I would just go full game stack and hope it shoots out, because you're going to be using so much money on those 2 receivers. But yeah, I think it's a pretty decent way to get different by playing I don't know, a game stack here. I really don't mind it. And I think Scatterboo's a lock in cash here. I wouldn't play either quarterback in cash. Receivers, I would consider Higgins, Noel, and Guillory in cash.
Yeah, I do think receiving wise, obviously the Arizona State receiver which is the guy we think is the best option, Bruce? Guillory, right? Is that what the guy Bryce?
Yeah.
Okay. 3.2K. I just think it's worth calling that out because I'm curious what his ownership will come in at. Because again, a wide receiver 1 at 3K, just everyone always is clamoring for that, especially if we need the value. And then keep in mind, again, I love playing Iowa State. I think Rocco's got a decent price. But those receivers, when you kind of play one of Higgins or Noel, and then you play Scatterboo, I don't know, it adds up. Yeah, that's all I'll say. I'll put it in just real quick to see. You put Rocco in at 7.6, you put in Cam Scatterboo, and then you put in Higgins. And again, a lot of these guys are a big part of the offenses. You're left with 5K for your running back, 2 receivers, a flex, and a super flex. It's not super easy to make work. So sometimes when I see those spots, I get a little nervous about playing it just because, Higgins could get 20 DK points and play great, but he might not be on the winner. He could even get 25 and not be on the winner. And I just get a little nervous about it. And again, this is coming from someone who's played Iowa State all the time. But we'll keep going through the slate. We'll keep breaking it down and see what we can find. Because again, I think we are struggling a little bit for value overall on this slate. Let's get the quarterback on Georgia and Texas. Okay, is it Quinn or is it Archie? I assume it's Quinn. I assume it is. I know you never know with these guys, and that's kind of some of the risk of rostering. And then, of course, there's Carson Beck against one of the best defenses in the country. Honestly, you can make the case Georgia feels like an X-off against Texas. And I don't know. It's one of those spots where if you look and you say, hey, do we play this game? Do we not? It's a 50 total. It kind of feels a little bit like Georgia, Alabama, where no one wants to play it, right? No one wants to even touch it at all because you can make strong cases for the defenses, but it could shoot out and be a game that gets there. Obviously, we have Trevor Etienne. He is questionable. We're waiting on that. If he is out, that could open up some value that we'll obviously have to, dive into. Nate Frazier, I guess, would be an option you could consider. I overall struggle with this game, and I think the field will struggle with this game too. Like, a lot of people are not going to just see it and just be like, oh, let's game stack it up. And honestly, there's favorable price tags on the receivers, right? If you wanted to play Bond and Smith or Bond and Lovett to just kick it off, you can at 5K. Those are really easy guys to fit in there. And honestly, at quarterback, you're just spending money anyways. So you're going to have to allocate salary to that position. There are no spend downs. So if you want to grab one of those quarterbacks around the 8K range, you can. But overall, I think this game doesn't get that much ownership, which on a 6-game slate, the full-on game stack is kind of intriguing. So for me, in tournaments, I'm thinking stay away from this game for the most part. But if I do want to dive into this game, maybe it's just like full-on, like if we play 20 teams, do a couple game stacks of this game and see what happens. Bruce, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's crazy on a 6-game slate. I think the top owned guy is going to be Wisner, like just around 40%, and then like I think next closest is Helm at like 10%. Everybody else is under, double-digit ownership. I haven't seen this game talked up at all. Last time they played, the game kind of got out of hand early. With Quinn's turnovers, offensive line not blocking well, and Etienne going crazy with short fields. So it could be a little bit different this time. I know Sark probably has a good offensive game plan this time around. I expect Quinn to start again, but they have been going to Arch in like short yardage and goal line situations. So kind of scares me off him a little bit. He's not gonna be very owned at all, and to get there, he'd probably need a receiver or two with him making big plays or something like that. Making a big rushing play, which he doesn't do very often. But yeah, it's tough for me to play these guys. But yeah, I think if you're right, I think you're right. If you do, you kind of need to stack up the maybe make it like a game stack with like Lovett or Arian Smith and maybe like a Matthew Golden or Bond. I know Oscar Delp had a good game last time these two teams played as well. He's only 3K. I think he's solid. Isaiah Bond and DeAndre Morris, 3,400, was healthy last game, played a lot too. A lot of good value here that people aren't going to play. But I'll put him on the playbook, and they're going to be unowned. So if you get this right, and it's the only game that kind of shoots out, you could be way ahead of the field for sure.
Yep, for sure. Also, we didn't pick our winners for the last game, so I'm going to take Iowa State for that last game. I'll take Texas against Georgia this time. I think they get the job done. We'll have to see. We'll see if the 8 overtimes can affect them. That's going to be a curious thing. I thought that was that big of a deal, but they ruined that with college football in the overtimes. That's a whole other conversation, though. Chris, who was your pick for the last game and this SEC championship?
I like Arizona State to win the other one, and I'm going to go with Texas this time. Surprise.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's hope the Horns can get it done. Bryce, what were your picks for Iowa State, Arizona State, and then dive into Georgia and Texas and give us a winner?
I'm going to go with Arizona State and Texas. I think both are going to be pretty good games. I don't see barring like crazy defensive touchdowns or like crazy long plays, I don't really see these games getting out of hand here. This is one of my least favorite games on the slate. If you are going to game stack it, I think pair Ewers. He has plenty of cheap pairing options. Bond, Golden, Helm, etc. Same thing with Georgia and Beck. Lovett and Smith would be my two favorites. I think Wisner is the only cash play here. He's projected to be pretty high, so I think that a Texas stack off of him, like passing stack off of him, would be like my favorite type of leverage in this game. I don't think Georgia comes in owned whatsoever, so it does not take a lot to be over on this game. I would definitely pair both of these quarterbacks with receivers, just as they do some cheap ones. So or like decent mid-range ones, I should say. But yeah, I think Wisner's Scattaboo, and I think there's 4 chalky running backs, and Wisner's definitely one of them.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely chalky, but the rest of the guys not really owned in that game.
No.
It's also interesting that like the slate starts at noon, and like only half the slate is done by 7:30. So that's another interesting aspect and dynamic to this slate.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want to, you could definitely make swaps for sure, and like play the slate pretty slow and kind of figure out what you want to do. Let's get to Marshall and ULL. Not a game I'm maybe dying to play, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I have to get your take on it, Bruce. Again, it's a 58 total. It's the higher total on the slate. There is some value with the receivers and running backs. Maybe I should lay it. Again, I'm not going to act like I know these players because I don't. I haven't watched enough of them. Maybe our guy Kurt will have some inside info, Mr. Marshall, over there. But Bruce, just take it away and talk about it because, again, I don't know that much about these teams. And curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I was reading up prior to the show on Marshall. I've watched a couple of other games, including last week when they were on the slate. Maybe late slate or something. I can't remember. But they are actually 11-1 against the number, and like 5-0 as an underdog. 5.5 point dogs this week. So if you're looking for a good bet, I think that's a solid one. They do go very fast. Both of these teams love to run the football. I think if ULL wants to throw the football, they could have a big advantage here. When they do play action and throw the ball off their run, they're very efficient. So I think they could surprise people with their passing game a little bit here. I know one of their receivers, Lance Lejean, is 4,500. Should be a pretty close to a lock for me in like cash games. I know Bryce will talk about it a little bit.
100%. Just playing in cash games.
Yeah.
Which guy is it again?
It's Lance Lejean, 4.5K.
4.5K. Okay. Just
easiest receiver play on the board this week.
Yeah. He's a former. I think he played at Maryland. He was like a quarterback, maybe. He was on one of those Netflix shows for a little bit there. It was like QB1 or something. It was a while back, but he's a great receiver play. I know Chandler Fields at 6,800 is probably going to get some ownership. Braylon Braxton for sure. Dude's running 12 times per game. Looked pretty rough last week, to be honest. I think maybe he had 12 rushes, 13 yards or something crazy. But he's going to run the football. This ULL defense isn't that great, so he should have some yards on the ground. And I think that's what most people are banking on here. The running backs for ULL, Zylan Perry and Bill Davis, are definitely going to have some ownership. Marshall's given up 30 points per game to running backs this year. Their defensive line is pretty bad, and ULL's rushing offensive line is really solid. So I expect them to put up some points. Those guys evenly split carries last game. So, and Perry's been hurt for a little bit. I think he missed the game before last. So I like both of those guys. Their prices are way too low. Marshall should be able to run the football too. This ULL defensive line is pretty bad. I know A.J. Turner and Jordan Houston are solid. I prefer Houston because of the price, and he did close out the game last week. So I think he's another good value at running back, which we need this week. I already mentioned Lejean. He's 4,500. He's going to be owned for sure. The two Marshall guys I like are Fitzpatrick and Montgomery. Both have high target rates last couple weeks. And another ULL guy, if you want to pivot off of a much chalkier Lejean, is Terrence Carter. He's got 4 touchdowns this year. He's going to play a lot, and he's an explosive guy. 2.5 yards per route, and it's elite. So other than that, I think it's a solid game. I mean, you can stack it up different ways. Cheap guys all across the board.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly guys that are like underpriced in this game. I don't know if I would want to game stack it, but like I kind of like the idea of maybe game stacking some of these like bigger championship games, hoping you hit the nuts on the game that hits, and then mix and match these really good values amongst this game. Like Perry was a good example of someone you said, like a guy that's in a split, but he's 3.6K. That's definitely enticing. And Bryce, I'll kick it over to you. You obviously thought LeGrand was a really good play, or how do you say it? Legendre is a good play. Call him Lance because that's his first name. So Lance, clearly someone you're looking at. Talk about him and break down the rest of this game.
I mean, he's just too cheap. He should be like 6.5K instead of 4.5K here. This is actually like my favorite game on the slate. Like this is a super underpriced game. I think it has a decent chance to shoot out. It has the highest total on the board. Like people don't know these guys, like casuals who are hopping in for the slate, so they just won't click on them. So like these are my favorite spots to get over on in like championship week stuff.
Do you like the game stack, Bryce? Because that's what
I do 100%. I think you can I think you can play both quarterbacks. I do prefer Braxton to Fields here. So yeah, I think Braxton is going to be one of the higher owned quarterbacks on the slate. ULL running backs, I think you can play them together. They're so cheap. Like, I don't think I would play like both running backs and you could play both running backs and Legendre. I just think it's hard for like Fields to get there as well. Like you could see Legendre like get like a lot of catches and just the offense runs through those three guys. But yeah, I don't hate an overstack here. I think Mateo obviously likes it. My wife's walking into the house, or we had a delivery, so he's on the game as well. ULL is the best value on the slate by a good margin, in my opinion. Here, I do prefer Bill Davis to Perry. If I did have to choose the running backs, he's just on a slightly better side of the split, and he is 1.3K more expensive though, so something to note there. Yeah, I think Chuck Montgomery is a decent punt for Marshall here at 3.4K. That's going to go completely unowned because everyone's going to go to like these Clemson guys or Guillory. So, yeah, like this game a ton. It's kind of like how much ULL is too much. I'd probably say in cash, I'd probably play two, like one of the running backs in Legendre. I think in tournaments, like you can even do the overstack here. Let me go get Mateo a treat real quick.
Yeah, no worries. And it's definitely an interesting game. And again, like, not a lot of people know these teams. I don't even know them that well either. One thing I do like to do is I do always love the game stack certain games. So I'll have to see what's, I'll run Saberson with, our projections, see what kind of happens, see what mixes and matches well, and go from there. I do agree, though, there's probably some just underpriced plays that not saying you have to play, but like you need to like consider, and then you could find other ways to get different because that value is going to help you do stuff. Bruce, do you think overall we are quote unquote lacking value on this slate besides that game, right? Like it's just, there's not a lot of value in general.
Yeah, there's little pieces here and there, but not like great value. Like some weeks we just have like 4 or 5 3K guys that can just smash. There's definitely not that on this slate. Yeah,
like there's guys that like we're like, man, this, like sometimes there's a guy we're like, oh, do we think this guy's a great value? Is he chalk? And it's like he's 2%. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's just, so it's a different kind of slate. And that's why I'm trying to think through it a little bit differently because it's not the same as normal slates. It's only 6 games too. So next one up, Clemson, SMU. Cade Klubnik is 9K for good reason. I think it's a great spot for him. If I can go get Cade, I will. I don't know if I'll be able to get up there, but I do think he's a good play. I think Kevin Jennings is a really nice price tag at 6.9K. I mean, the Steve Boynton somewhere climbing the ladders, just absolutely smashing. I like this game. I think it's a really intriguing one. The total's good at 56. I also think it's a really good game stack game. Phil Maffa 6'7". That feels cheap. I know he's had his struggles. Keep in mind, Citadel, they didn't need him. I don't know if he got hurt, but they didn't need him. South Carolina, got shut down in a big game. Like, perfectly, that happens. Pittsburgh, I'll admit, that was a little bit of a weird one, for sure. I don't doubt it. But I think it's a really good Maffa bounce back spot at his price tag. Unless I'm missing something. Williams, his price continues to skyrocket. I think he's a good play. You can make a case for all these SMU receivers, right? Hudson, Smith, Daniels. These guys always kind of pop, and they're just values that can get there, right? It's a little bit of roulette, but they're values that can easily hit ceilings. You got Stool, don't mind him, Wesco Jr. There's a lot of ways to go with this game. So I think this is a really good game. It's definitely not easy to predict. It's not one of those games like you look at Iowa State, you go, where's the production going? It's going to Higgins, it's going to Noel, but that's priced appropriately. So you have to play a little bit of roulette. It is what it is, but it's a great game. 56 total, Bruce. Take it away.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with Moffa. I think he's kind of a sneaky play here. The SMU really hasn't played any great running teams this year, other than Louisville, and Isaac Brown went 10 yards per carry against him. So I think they're gettable here. This Clemson offensive line is really good. So it's possible he could have a big game at low ownership here. I have him just over 25% owned. So I think when you can get a workhorse guy for 6,700 and possibly a good spot, I think it's interesting for sure. I know Bryce earlier brought up the cheap Clemson wide receivers. Wesco last week had 10 targets, 93% of the snaps, and he's only 3,400 this week. Former 5-star receiver, and also TJ Moore, 3,100, had 7 targets, 77% of the snaps as well. I know they had a few guys transfer. Tyler Brown's been hurt, so I think both of these guys are really great value. They're going to have some ownership, especially Wesco, just because of his big role last week. The 3 big SMU receivers, Keyshawn Smith, Roger Daniels, and even Jordan Hudson got 50% of the snaps last week after his concussion, coming back from that. I think all those guys are good plays. Moochie Dixon as well played 70% of the snaps, got 5 targets, and it's only 3,300. Good value at receiver here in this one. Rashard Smith is 8,200, but I think it's a good spot for him. He's just been crushing every week, and it's a good matchup for him as Clemson's rush defense has been bad. You brought up the 2 quarterbacks as well. Those 2 guys are great plays. This is going to be the most owned game of the week for sure. I'm pretty sure of it. The total's high. There's good value here, and you can stack it up all different kinds of ways. But yeah, it's hard not to play some of these guys, especially at these prices.
Yeah. Also, Bruce, UGA, Texas, that's in the dome. Marshall, the Louisville, is that dome or no?
Marshall and ULL is, I think it's outside, but let me check.
Yeah, I was thinking it's probably outside. That would be my guess. And then I assume ACC is outside or inside. I guess it could be either.
Championship location. It is in Charlotte, outside.
Yeah, it looked like it was outside from the picture I was seeing, but I didn't want to quote it because it could have been the wrong thing. So yeah, Charlotte's outside. Where's the other one? The UL game?
Yeah, let's see. I'm looking it up now.
Charlotte, obviously not terrible weather this time of year, but you never know. And I call it out because it's December. Like it's December. It's starting to get cold.
Yeah, it's in Lafayette, Louisiana. It's outside.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, outdoor game. There you go. All right, Bryce, we'll go over to you. Actually, Bruce, give your pick: Clemson or SMU. I have SMU. What about you?
I also like SMU here.
All right, Bryce. Clearly a good game, and yes, it comes with ownership, like Bruce said. But we have late swap, and if you are on this game and maybe you played early guys and they didn't play well, you have the PSU Oregon game to pivot to. You could pivot 30 minutes before to Marshall, Louisville. So you can pivot on or off this game based on how your lineups are doing, which is another important thing to note with this slate because it's an all-day event. But how are you attacking this game?
I think this game is the mega chalk game of the week. So like if you're dead coming into it, definitely pivot to Oregon, Penn State. Or I mean, even Louisiana Lafayette, Marshall. But I think that game and this game are the two highest owned games. So, if you're pretty dead, just hope Oregon Penn State chews out, because I don't think anyone's going to be played there. Bruce touched on Wesco. I think he's kind of hard to pass in cash at 3.4K. Lets you kind of do whatever you want with the rest of the lineup. Play him and like Legendre and like one of the cheap like ULL running backs is kind of like D-shock build this week. So, if you want to get off that, I think Moff is really good leverage at running back. I think he goes very under-owned here compared to like what he should. Like he probably comes in at what, like 20, 25%. I would want to be like probably 40% Maffa at least on this slate. I think it's a good spot against the SMU defense. Brashard Smith, very good running back play as always. Tons of upside. Just kind of depends who gets the touchdowns near the goal line between him and Jennings. I'm expecting Jennings to be the other chalky quarterback on this slate. Him and Braxton, I kind of think are like the easy, like, you pay $7K for each QB type of deal. I do prefer Jennings to Braxton if you did want to like pick one, but yeah, I like Jennings here. It's a little harder to pair him. SMU receivers are kind of iffy. I think Roderick Daniels would be my favorite pairing. Also, side note, shame on Boynton when he posted his props. I don't see any SMU overs. So, either the books have finally caught up or Boynton is just laughing his way to the bank here, because they've absolutely printed for us this year. I think Clemson running game is a great GPP play. I think their passing game will be owned. I think Williams is going to be owned a lot. I do like Williams here. I think people will play Klubnik just because like it's super easy to like pair him. Like, I mean, Williams is 6.4K and everyone else is 3.5 and below. I mean, Brainstool's a decent pivot off of like chalky Wesco Williams. I think TJ Moore is playable at 3.1K. This Clemson passing offense is just way too cheap here. So, if you're dead, don't play this game.
Yeah, definitely good points brought up there. Who do you have the wins?
Winner. I have Clemson, and then the committee completely screwing SMU.
I hope they do. I bet Alabama to make the championship or the playoff at like plus 100. I know Snyder put it in the Discord. I know it's like moved a ton. So I'm hoping. I mean, there's definitely some bias in my SMU pick, but I definitely want it to happen. All right, Penn State and Oregon. I think this is a very intriguing game. This one is at Lucas Oil Stadium. So Bryce, if you get bored, I guess you could go to the game technically. I don't know how far are you from Lucas Oil Stadium?
It's walking distance. It's like a 20-minute walk.
Yeah, there you go. So if you want to head to the game, you can. It's in a dome, right? So that's good. For Penn State and Oregon, it's definitely going to be. I think it's a really solid game. I think Oregon's really good, and I think they're the cream of the crop. I know it's not like a hot take or anything like that. I think they're the best team for sure. If you look at all the odds, I think they're kind of wrong, and I think they should just be like a little bit even further than all these other teams. We'll have to see. I was pretty surprised by the line that Penn State was only plus 3.5. It's a 50.5 total, but I think Oregon's going to push the pace of this game. Now, the argument is, could Penn State kind of control the game a little bit on the ground, right? And just slowly, methodically go downfield on this Oregon team. Like I said, I think Oregon is a great play here. And look at the pricing too. Dylan Gabriel is 8.6, sure. But Tess Johnson at 7K, I mean, I'm going to be honest, that feels kind of cheap. I feel like he should be like 7.7 here. It just feels cheap. Evan Stewart at 3.9 also feels cheap. Again, maybe it's pricing in the total a little bit. You got Holden, you got Ferguson, tons of different options you can mix and match. James at 7.7, he's another good running back option. I'm sure you guys will talk deep about him. And then Penn State, the real guy to discuss is 7.7K Tyler Ward, who is clearly an option that, I mean, he's going to be like the primary focal point of this offense. He's not going to get schemed out or anything by the defense. Like, they're going to get him involved. They're going to find a way. I think he's a great play to go up to. I don't love Drew Aller, and I don't love the running backs in Allen and Singleton, but I don't think those plays are crazy in tournaments. But so it's mainly looking at the Oregon and stacking them up and then trying to pair back Warren if I can. Bruce, is that kind of the same way you're looking at this game?
Yeah, I think it's extremely interesting, especially if you look at like who Penn State has played this year. It's not really the best offenses in college football. They went to USC and squeaked out a close win against like maybe one of the only real offenses they've played this year. I mean, they played Ohio State, but we've seen what they have. And
I'll give you, Bruce. I'll give you the schedule just to go through this because I think it matters.
Yeah.
West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
We know Garrett Green and how much of a disaster he can be.
Yeah.
Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA, USC, who put up 30, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Ohio State only put up 20, and they weren't great. But honestly, that offense can stall, and I don't believe in Ohio State that much.
No, me neither.
It's a whole other conversation. Washington, Purdue, Max Brosmer put up 25 in Minnesota. It was at Minnesota, and those, they beat them, so they won 26-25, and then Maryland. Where have they even been like tested?
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think if the field does not want to invest in Oregon, I want to bet that this is the best team in the league and this is the best offense and take my chances. So I'm with you. I'll let you continue, but I thought it was a good point to go through.
Yeah, it's a sneaky spot for Oregon. I think nobody's going to play. Nobody's going to play this 8,600 Dylan Gabriel. Not many people are going to play 7K Tez. He's going to be under 20%. Evan Stewart 3,900. It's going to be 5% or so. Just a great spot. And then no one at all is going to pay up 7,700 for a tight end, and Tyler. He gets snaps on the goal line. He's a little bit tougher sell for me just because I do think Oregon's defense is solid. But I think I really like the Oregon offense here. Jordan James at 7,700 is going to be unowned. Probably 15 to 20 or so, which is a lot lower than he usually gets on most slates. And then Whittington at 4,100 is going to be unowned. Both of those guys are solid. And like we saw, I think Woody Marks had over 100 yards rushing. Yeah, he did against them. And I really think they're sneaky. I may have a stack or two of Oregon with Gabriel and a receiver or two. I think Evan Stewart is a great tournament play. No one's on him. He's cheap, and you can easily pair him with Gabriel here.
No one's on Evan Stewart. That surprised me at the price.
Absolutely not. There's so many good cheap receivers. Like I think Stewart's like, say you need to pivot off some of these cheap Clemson guys. There's your pivot right there. You need to pivot off like a chalky Brashard Smith. Jordan James is your pivot there.
Here's a good stack.
Klubnik to Gabriel. Jennings to Aller. You guys can make some pivots work.
Here's a good stack. I just hand built it really quick. Gabriel, James, Stewart, and Warren. I need a running back, a receiver, a flex, and a super flex. 5.5K for my last 4 spots. Like that's not half bad. And like, to be fair, you have to spend at your quarterback no matter what. So if we put in Jennings, we'll just put in the cheapest option at Superflex just to see what it does. I'm keyed in on that game. Hang on, let me do it. I'm left with 5K for running back, receiver, and flex. Like that is perfectly doable in a really solid game stack. So I'm with you. I like this game. Bryce, take it away though. We obviously talked a little bit about this game and some of the pivots, how to attack it. But what are you doing with this game?
This game, I'm not playing in cash. If you're dead, this is kind of like my pivot game, 100%. There's options at pretty much every salary level. Cheap receiver Stewart, stud receivers or tight end and Warren and Tez Johnson. 2 Penn State running backs that will go completely unowned. They're probably my least favorite plays in this game. I do kind of like James. If I had to choose one guy to like just play straight up on a team in this game, it would be James. Gabriel here is overpriced. I think everyone goes to Klubnik or down. I think he gets kind of forgotten at 8.6K, so don't mind that in GPP. Aller, he's just not going to get clicked on compared to like Kevin Jennings. So like if you need a pivot, I think he's solid there. In terms of my pick for the game, we'll go with because my parents went to Penn State. So heart says Penn State, head says Oregon. So I'll go with my heart here. And
gotta listen to your head, I think, but I'm going with Oregon. I'm excited to watch this game because I feel confident they're the best, but we'll see. Bruce, Oregon or Penn State? Sounds like you are on the Oregon side.
Oregon side for me. Yep.
All right, there we go. That is the slate. We didn't go as long as normal. We still took up a lot of time breaking everything down. Bruce, give us the Friday breakdown. There is a slate tonight. No humongous games, but there is one game that, eyes will be on UNLV and Boise State, I think, for the most part. The other two games, not exactly, but Bruce, talk about the slate.
Yeah, first game, Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State. They actually played last week, and Tyler Huff got injured. It was a low-scoring game, I think like 19-17 or something, but Tyler Huff got injured, so it'll be interesting to see if he plays tonight. If he doesn't, we get former Nebraska Cornhusker Logan Smothers starting at quarterback. So that'll be something to watch and to be in the Discord for. I think that's a fun game. And one of our favorite running backs, Trey Stewart, for Jacksonville State. He's going to be chalky, but he's fun to watch. We've enjoyed watching him all year. The next game, Tulane and Army. I know Boynton posted a rumor about Tulane's coach leaving after this game to go to North Carolina. So it makes me like Army a little bit more here. I was going to fade Bryson Daly tonight at 10.3K, just because I like Tulane's defense. Tulane's played good defense all year. They shut down Navy's option attack a few weeks ago. So I was going to fade him, but that news kind of scares me a little bit. Maybe they're not as prepared as they should be. So I think Bryson Daly maybe puts a good score tonight. He is expensive. Going to be owned. Maybe the most owned quarterback this evening. So I think he's a solid play. And then Mekhi Hughes on the other side is just a stud. So it's going to be the slowest game of the night for sure. Both teams slow tempo. Both love to run the football. You can probably fade it all together if you're not playing Daly or Hughes, and probably feel good about your lineups there. But it is a 3-game slate. Then you have UNLV Boise, the one you mentioned. It's going to be a good game. Got Gene T and UNLV offense. They played earlier this year, and they shut him down. I think he had like 128 yards and 1 touchdown or something. So it is hard to pay that price when this UNLV defense is really solid. But I think it's probably the better game of the night, and a lot of people will be on. It's going to be chalky for sure. A lot of cheap receivers. Cam Camper is one of them, going to be the chalkiest play of the evening. You have Ricky White's going to be low owned. So it's going to be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. The rematch for sure. This UNLV defense is really solid. So looking to see what they do second time around here.
Yeah, it should be a good game. I'm excited for it, and not too late, right? Too. We get them all starting pretty quick, 7, 8, and 8. So that's kind of nice. You don't have to wait till like 10:45 for UNLV Boise State, which is nice. All right, let's get the plays of the day, and then we will get up on out of here. All right, Bruce, go first. Who do you got? Who is your play of the day?
Let's see. Let me take a look here. I finally had a really good play of the day last week, but I forgot who it was. I smashed. I'm going to go with Bill Davis, 4,900. I think I would go Scattaboo, but he's going to be chalky. I think Bill Davis is going to be in a good range just because he has Zylan Perry at 3,600. But anyone against this Marshall defense on the ground is going to smash. So I love him.
All right. Davis, it is Bryce. What about you? Who do you got?
Bruce stole mine. I love Bill Davis here. We'll go with another Lafayette guy, Lance Legendre. Talked him up during the show. I think those are the two best values, along with Wesco this week.
And I'll go with a cheap tournament play, Evan Stewart, 3.9K. Like him a lot. I think he's a good option. So that wraps it up. Those are the plays of the day. We got everything for you. We will be back, I think, at some point. I don't know when for the next show. We won't be here next week talking Army Navy. I know I won't. If anyone else wants to go live by themselves and talk about the game, have fun. We'll have showdown content, I'm assuming. Bruce, I'm sure there'll be a decent showdown slate. There's kind of an okay one every single year, right?
Yeah, I hate it every year, but I still put out content for it.
And still types up about all the guys running and everything.
It's a little more fun this year, I think, just because the teams are better. But when they're like 2-8 and like 2-10 against each other, it's a little different.
Yeah,
for sure. So, we'll have all the content for you. We'll have another show, I'm sure, at some point. If we don't have a bowl one, we'll have a championship one, right? But I'm sure we'll have a playoff one, I assume. But that will wrap it up for us. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the show. For me, Mangone, Bruce, and Bryce. See you guys later.